So our next talk coming up is fascinating. Having looked at the slides and the videos, I'm really interested in seeing this one. So our next speaker, you can see, is there on screen and ready to go, is Tom. And I realised I didn't know how to say your surname. Tom Veryzer? No, Veryzer.
Oh, almost there.
Oh.
Repeat. Veryzer.
Oh no, you're going to make me drill it until I'm ready. Our next speaker is Tom.
Veryzer.
It's Tom. There you go. It's Tom. Who's been teaching for over 10 years. He specialises in young learner classes and student engagement. He's presented an interactive workshop on the latter at the 2018 IATEFL conference. How did I miss that? And more recently gained expertise expanding his teaching into online platforms. He is now a leading practitioner in using virtual reality in ELT and enjoys continuing exploring new ways of enriching the student experience, often informed by his other work, which includes performing shows on his favorite topic, the science of happiness. And if you want to know more about that, I'm sure he'll share his website with you. This is an utterly fascinating talk, so I sit back and look at ELT in VR. Tom, over to you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. It's great to talk in association with Oxford University Press, and on this topic of virtual reality, specifically English language teaching in virtual reality. I wonder if people in the chat box could let me know if they've ever experienced virtual reality for themselves, because one of the things I'm going to do today is try to describe in as great a detail as possible what that experience is like, and talk about how I spent basically 6 months using this new technology teaching English. I was in lockdown, where I live in Brighton in England on the south coast there, and it was a fascinating experience and quite a golden opportunity to suddenly have this presented to me. So it was really special, and as with any new technology, new teaching tool, when something comes along and it's new, it's very exciting to explore it and see all the ins and outs of it. So really the presentation today is a window into the world of virtual reality, how it works, but not just the technical attributes, but how that interacts with the pedagogy of teaching English. And I've called it boldly going where no teacher has gone before, because that's what I had to do essentially, to boldly embrace this, and really in that essence of like Star Trek, where this phrase comes from, explore a new world. So welcome everybody, a very warm welcome to you all from all over. And I would like to start this presentation on a personal note about what makes me passionate about teaching. That is very much about how I keep myself sane as a teacher, really. And it is just the continual trying to find new ways of engaging students and go beyond just the teaching of English. Because I think it's important to zoom out and realize that not only are we teaching students how to use this language, but we're shaping them for the world beyond the classroom. And I think that's especially true and impactful for younger learners. And so you can imagine how excited I was when I was presented with this opportunity of using virtual reality, something I was quite familiar with already because my father is making a game for virtual reality. So we'd been gaming with this before, and that's why I was the first choice of the school where I work, EC Language School, to pioneer these classes for the first time. So very, very exciting stuff. And also, I want to talk about my passion for play. I mentioned gaming there. Maybe some of you are gamers, or if it's like enjoy playing computer games and things. When these two worlds collide of gaming and teaching, you can think, well, what's the connection between games and English? Well, we play games in our classroom all the time. This is not a new concept in that respect. And I'm very passionate about using play as a means of activating language learning. So this was perfect, really. And I'm very excited to show you, essentially, this piece of kit. This is the Oculus Quest 2 headset. So when I was teaching, my students were basically sitting or standing in their environments, wearing a headset like this, and they were able to navigate different environments and pick things up, throw things, interact, wave. And as strange as this looks now, that's what happened, essentially. If you are not familiar with this technology, fascinatingly, there are two screens inside here, one for your left eye and one for your right eye. And it basically tricks you into thinking you're in a three-dimensional space by showing a slightly different image on each eye. If you've experienced Google Cardboard, which is like a cardboard headset, and you put your phone in and the phone divides into two and it tries to do a similar thing, that's nothing in comparison to this. This is the real deal. This is the state-of-the-art headset, the Oculus Quest 2. And this is what I was lucky enough to use. So let's boldly go and begin the talk. I hope you're excited. First, I want to talk about what this talk is not. It's certainly not a talk excluding or shaming those who cannot gain access to this technology or those using non-VR analog teaching techniques. I'm going to argue later on that this technology is becoming more and more readily available, cheaper, etc., etc. But even though one day you yourself may unexpectedly, like me, suddenly have the opportunity to use this, if you don't see yourself using this at the moment, that's fine. I do think that there are some parallels that will be interesting between non-VR and VR. And yeah, of course, there are many fantastic, brilliant non-VR teaching tools and techniques as well. And lastly, this is not a sales pitch for VR. Quite the opposite. This talk is an honest account of my experience teaching in VR for 6 months. I taught, I had a regular class of students from Panama who came to learn with me for an hour and a half every day, Monday to Friday. I also had the opportunity of teaching some younger learners and even one-to-ones in VR too. So I'm going to talk about that. This talk is an assessment of the advantages and challenges of teaching in VR. Interesting to compare this technology with the real world. And it's an example of teacher creativity when presented with a new teaching tool, and an opportunity to spread the word about this technology. Some of you might not have even heard of this before, so all the more interesting for you guys. And lastly, it's an opportunity to discuss what the future of ELT will be like. Technology is advancing exponentially, and how will this change the landscape of English language teaching? Well, we're going to talk about that too. So I'd like everybody to imagine now that you have a magic wand that can do anything you like, apart from wave and make a student understand all of English, of course. But my question to you is, what would you do if you had a magic wand like this? Well, how would this change your lessons? If you could wave the magic wand and transport your students somewhere or give them a certain experience, what would you do? Where would you go? How would you orchestrate something that could complement or even expedite their language learning? I'd like to argue today that virtual reality is a magic wand in many different ways. And so what I'm going to be showing you today is an app called Immerse, which is the one I used, and the hardware of the Oculus Quest 2, and the different ways that we use this technology, some of which you'll find are quite mind-blowing, I think. So the first thing, I think, from someone especially that's not familiar with virtual reality and how effective and immersive it is, I mean, you can see the app here is called Immerse. It is extremely immersive. And I think one of the best examples of how immersive it is when you see somebody on a roller coaster and you see how they react, some with fear and panic, and other people like this. It really, really does affect how you feel and transport you to another world. And this is strange, right? Because logically, you know that this is not real. But the funny thing is, your body doesn't believe you, and you really do feel like you're in a different environment. And other than scaring the hell out of people, you know, you can go to a VR meditation app, for example, was one of the things that I like to do the most when I'm using this in my spare time, and feeling the incredible calming effects, or the connection with the stars in the sky. It's very, very bizarre. It's not real, but it really, really feels incredibly special. This tool is so powerful that it's actually curing phobias. People are using this technology to conquer their fears in a medical controlled environment with programs developed especially for the headset. Surgeons are training to gain valuable experience operating and practicing with a virtual scalpel and a virtual body. The imagination is the limit, basically, with this. So a very powerful piece of kit. So you can imagine my excitement again, getting this technology for the first time and thinking, what on earth is this app going to be like? Is it going to be like a virtual school? Are we going to go to another planet or something? And what I'd like to do now is to show you the student's perspective in VR. So I have captured some content from the headset in the first person perspective, and I'd like to show you now that video. So could the moderators please play video number 1?
Hello everybody, it's me, Tom, here in virtual reality. I know, isn't it immersive?
There we are, the video is
to you,
loading.
it probably just looks like a strange cartoon world, but I can't describe how immersive it is once you're in here. You can look down at your hands, you can see them, and it's all first person perspective. I can use a direction thumbstick to teleport around the environment and interact with objects. And this is basically the first environment the students encounter, their bedroom. And when they're ready to leave, what they do is they go to the front door and type in the code for their lesson, exit, and then they'll enter the environment the teacher has selected. So, let's go.
So, there we have it. The student perspective of virtual reality. I think that some people have a reaction of like, oh, this looks very cartoony, you know, but it's very strange that even though the graphics are not photorealistic, it still doesn't encroach on how immersive it is. And it's simple and effective, and that was just the first environment of many that students can experience, which is their bedroom. Now, I'd like to talk about the teacher perspective. You'll notice here that our picture of a teacher just has his laptop and doesn't have a headset at all. And that's accurate. You don't actually need the headset to teach in virtual reality. You can jump in, but primarily the teacher uses a piece of software on the computer, for Mac or PC, either is fine, and they use a piece of software that allows them to enter the virtual space, interact with students, and manipulate the virtual environment. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to give you a tour of this software. Okay, so let's have a look now at the teacher's perspective in virtual reality. Let me see where my screen sharing button is. Okay, here we go. Right, so you can see I'm on my desktop right now, and I'm going to explore the software. Here we go. So this is basically the reception area where students arrive after they've exited their bedroom. First thing I usually do here is to choose my avatar to one that looks like me. So I choose this guy here with the beard and the shirt. And if I click and drag my mouse, that allows me to look in the space. And I can also use the direction keys on my keyboard to walk around. So you can see outside the window here, we've got this hovering bus that the students have arrived on. And I have a lot of buttons down the side here that allowed me to place objects. For example, if I want to put a whiteboard somewhere, I can do that. And I can type. And also I can draw as well. And I have all sorts of other placeable objects, TV screens, images. I can do PowerPoint presentations. I can put notes on the wall, manifest a scoreboard out of nowhere. So if I'm doing a team game or that kind of thing. So when the students arrive here at the reception desk, one of the things they can do is they can walk around and they can practice their controls, maybe gesturing. So if they put their thumb up, the controller detects their thumb is up and they can do a thumb up gesture, for example. And I also have a menu of gestures here. I can wave and high five and things like that. So teleporting around the space, I can jump. If I find these circles on the floor, I can do that. I can click objects and right click to throw them. And when I'm ready to, I can exit this space and choose from a variety of locations from the change experience menu. So you can see here we've got some airport levels, an art studio, a backyard barbecue, a bar, car dealership, park, city centre, coffee shop, comedy club, debate room, desert island, doctor's office, emergency situation scenario, fast food restaurant, garage, grand hall of a castle, a gym, a home, a hotel room, a kitchen, a meeting room, sitting around the campfire in nature, a network event, a news station with a green screen, an observation deck, a presentation room. It keeps going. A holiday resort when you just need a break from all the other rooms. Restaurant, shopping center, talk show, studio, the welcome deck we were just in, wizard classroom, and a nice trip to the zoo as well. So I thought I would show you the kitchen. Let's go to the kitchen now. So, ta-da! The students will be transported to this environment with their teacher. And the most obvious thing, of course, that comes through your mind as a teacher is that, okay, we can do role plays and things, but these environments are interactive. So you can pick things up and interact with them. Let's pick this knife up. It is quite scary when all the students are running around with knives, but obviously no health and safety issues in VR. Let's get some food here. Okay, we've done lessons on food countless times, haven't we, as teachers? But nothing quite like this. Let's try and get this in the saucepan. It takes a bit of practice, but if I was in VR, then obviously I'd extend my hand out and drop that in the pan nice and easy. We've got a fried egg going here. Uh-oh. Yeah, this kitchen might set on fire. So just to give you an idea of some of the lessons that I've done here, we've got the board there. We could put items up for making something. I do love to show a YouTube video of a chef talking about food or giving an instruction to make something. Over here, you've got a checkout, so they could pretend that they work in the kitchen and they've got an order. Let's go into first person perspective. Let's say someone orders a hot dog and a salad. Complete the order, get the receipt, give it to a classmate. Okay, so these environments are dynamic, and it means extra immersion essentially. And I was trying to explain earlier, capture the huge sense of immersion that is there, and the fun of suddenly being in a virtual space. Let's go to another environment that's quite unique. The observation deck. So the observation deck allows you to travel around the world and select a place that you'd like to go, essentially a 3D, a 360 degree image. So for example, if we go to the Palace Pier in Brighton, where I live, I can show my students the pier and the beach and say, okay, so this is where I live. It's a nice blue sky today. So again, tons of places that you can transport your students, really interactive. We've got a globe here that can spin around when you're talking about maybe who has visited what countries and where, and lots of 360 images from around the world, even sort of everyday places. Load your own, I think, is a new feature that is there. Finally, I'd like to just show you the perhaps the most basic room, which is the meeting room, which is essentially the classroom. So you might start a lesson here, get students to sit down and listen to their teacher as they load up a PowerPoint onto the screen here. Maybe put some whiteboards up to make additional notes. Then maybe you'd send your students into the breakout area to chat a little bit. Free donuts for everybody. And so there we have it. A little preview, sneak glimpse into the world of virtual reality for the teacher. So let's come out of that now. Okay, so there we are. That's the teacher's perspective and the software side of things. Now, I used some screen capture software when I was teaching to record lessons. I had the privilege of working with the developers and providing them with feedback and things. And as a teacher, and it's a good practice to observe yourself, record yourself teaching, or capture lessons and watch them back. And this is exactly what I did. So now I'm going to show you a video of a lesson that I captured. So we're going to see the students in the space, me as the teacher, and we're going to keep this question in mind while you watch. what features do you notice in addition to those of a real-world classroom? Okay, so we saw things that we have in the real-world classroom, like we have whiteboards, we have teaching spaces, we have chairs and tables and pens. But what do you notice in addition to a real-world classroom? So with that question in mind, moderators, please could you play video number 2?
Here are some highlights from a 45-minute VR lesson to an elementary class on modifiers and comparatives. Note that before this lesson, the students had already completed a 45-minute lesson on Microsoft Teams using a textbook. The aim of this VR lesson was to activate the grammar we had studied on modifiers in a speaking activity and practice comparatives in speaking and writing. First, I prepared the space by setting up a whiteboard and adding an engaging image from the bank of searchable images. Here you can see me placing the image on the floor. Then I admit the students. I click admit. Hi Azaleen.
Hi, teacher.
Hi Dianela.
Oh, hi, teacher.
Yes.
My last name in English is Castle.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Castillo. Yes. Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
Gestures such as waving are quick to use and effective. Dallas
Hi,
is here.
Dallas. Let's go.
Hi Dallas. Okay, let's
Hi,
go.
teacher.
Hi. Then I used the locations menu to change the environment.
Hi. Hi.
Let's go
me
to the
escucha.
castle.
Okay.
Their reaction to this new environment shows how immersive the experience is.
Okay.
The castle. Castle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Castle, the Harry Potter.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
it's nice. It's very beautiful. What can you see?
Teacher, you visit the castle in England?
I can discreetly use the internet and other applications without them seeing my screen.
No, Panama no castle, teacher.
Oh, really? 4,000 castles
Diana de Gal.
in England.
Diana de Gal. Castle in England.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah,
más de 4,000 castillos.
really beautiful.
Oh, bastante. Wow, yo quiero uno.
Yeah. I can pick up and interact with objects in the environment, as can they. Do you know the name
Wow.
of this in English?
¿Esto qué es? What is that, teacher? Thank you. Arco.
Archery.
Arco, flecha.
Yeah. The sport is archery. I can place labels anywhere in the environment.
Teacher, cuidado. Teacher. Ay.
It's a bow and arrow.
Ay. Me estoy disparando yo
Arrow.
misma.
Yes. I can shoot a laser out of my fingers to point at things and direct their attention. You have a bow and arrow.
Hard.
Everybody, repeat.
No lo sé agarrar.
Bow and arrow.
Bow and arrow.
Yeah. Bow and arrow.
Okay.
I can load a pre-made activity or one I prepared earlier. In this activity, we will learn modifiers. Good. Okay, everybody.
Now, can you see the modifiers here?
¿Cómo hago para disparar? Jocelyn, cuidado que está al frente. Ok. Disparo la flecha.
Modifiers. So that's the end of that. Not the end of the lesson. I'm just cutting it there to now answer that question I asked you to bear in mind of what are the different features that we saw. Let's answer those. What did you see? Well, VR provides a gateway into a variety of new stimuli. We're talking about new locations, new activities, new objects. Certainly hugely engaging, for sure. The teacher, as you saw, can shoot lasers out of the fingertips, basically to point at things. A teacher can label objects in an environment and also load pre-made lesson content, which is handy. And probably other things you noticed as well that just could bring a lesson alive. The main point here, of course, is the first one, that it is just such a different thing to experience as to suddenly be transported to such a different place. And you saw their reaction. Okay, so the next part of the video and the next part of the lesson, while you watch, we're going to talk about the challenges now of teaching in this medium. What challenges emerge? What challenges do you notice? Okay, moderators, please, could we play video number 3?
Before I give the students instructions, I rally them to teleport them all in one place.
Everybody listen.
Teacher, casi le doy con la flecha.
Yes. Okay.
Please, can you tell me the rules?
Okay.
Next, I activate focus mode to paralyze the students. It means they cannot interact with objects.
Bow and arrow.
Bow and arrow.
Bow, ¿qué significa, Guillermo?
Okay.
Bow.
Everybody listen.
I give instructions to shoot a modifier and make a sentence. They are a very low-level group and need lots of help, so I board some example sentences.
Okay.
Not very happy.
Bueno, ¿me puedo mover?
Yes. Okay, everybody.
One student finds it hard to master the controls.
Me estoy disparando yo misma. ¿Cómo hago para tirar la flecha? Okay.
No.
Ay, de nuevo me disparé. Really, teacher. Me estoy disparando yo misma.
Don't shoot me.
Some of the students start saying quiet instead of quite, so I activate my webcam to clarify the pronunciation.
It's
It takes a few seconds.
otra vez es viajar. Travieso.
Listen.
El teacher se convirtió
Quiet.
en...
Quiet. Quiet.
¿Dónde está el teacher?
Quiet. Quiet.
Why?
Imagine having this huge mouth in front of you in the middle of a castle in VR.
Quiet.
One student disappears, then enters the lesson again because she experiences technical problems.
¿Qué hacer? Ok, esto.
Tuve problemas técnicos. Problem techniques.
Ok.
Okay.
The students practice shooting their arrows and making sentences with some success. Next, I load a PowerPoint on comparatives onto the virtual TV screen.
Yes.
Okay, everybody. Look. The giraffe is
Giraffe.
A, more tall, B, taller, C, more taller than the cow.
C, teacher, more taller.
More taller? No. After some guided practice, I give each student a whiteboard and encourage them to try to remember and write the sentences.
¿Qué tengo que hacer aquí yo?
Okay. Write the sentence. Write the sentence. The giraffe.
Escribir una oración.
Continue. Okay.
Oye, señora,
Good, Daniela.
¿qué hizo? Hay que escribir una...
I can also write on the boards and make corrections. Good. Tiger.
Good.
Tiger.
Here. Una sola. Okay.
Bigger.
Okay. Tiger. Tigers. Okay.
Then. After lots of practice, I end the lesson.
Okay.
Very good, everybody. That's the end of the lesson.
I'll see you
tomorrow.
Not tomorrow. No, it's Friday.
Monday,
It's
teacher.
Friday. See you on Monday. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
See you on Monday.
Bye.
And that is the end of the lesson. So lots of great comments in the chat. As you can see, really different, right? But also, you know, transposing all of that teacher knowledge, all of that teacher experience into a virtual space with real human being students in their virtual avatars interacting with you virtually. So let's talk about those challenges. What challenges emerged? Well, various. I'm going to argue that the challenges we saw are either temporary challenges, because the technology will develop, or they're opportunities for creative problem solving. So let's look at some of these in turn. I think one of the biggest challenges is not being able to see students' faces. You can see the avatar on the left. I did have an absolutely fantastic time with these students, and we had great fun. I also taught them in Microsoft Teams as well, so I did see their faces in a video chat. I have taught students and never seen their real faces, just on virtual lessons, and it's a bit strange not being able to see someone's face. So that is a disadvantage. But as the technology develops, there will be face tracking improvements. At the moment, when a teacher or student speaks, their lips move. But you saw the challenge with pronunciation there. I had to jump in with my webcam so they could see my lips and teeth and tongue, etc. So, you know, that's one option. Sometimes, if you think about the improvements that are being made, you know, more options of avatars that look more like yourself, maybe tweaking facial features, or even in the future scanning your face and having that on an avatar will be possible. Combining face-to-face with video, as I mentioned, or even face-to-face with VR as well. You know, what's the ideal mix here? I would argue that my ideal setup would be face-to-face class with the option to go into VR as a truly unique, engaging tool in which active learning is promoted. So I've really tried it all. I taught on Zoom, I taught on Microsoft Teams, I've taught in VR, and I've taught in face-to-face. So really interesting to compare all of those. There are many different apps that are out there, all with different advantages. Remio is a platform that has more game-based learning. This could double up as like your students' social program. All of these are basically trying to be virtual office spaces, but as with working in an office, you also like to, you know, go and just relax and, you know, play some table tennis or some pool or whatever. Engage is one that has the most realistic avatars, and I think Immerse, from my experience, is one that is best optimized for teaching at the moment. So another temporary challenge are the technical issues. You saw that the student lost her connection. Obviously, connections are getting better with time, higher internet speeds. The headset has a battery life. I've experienced times where students have had to go and sit by the wall so they can plug themselves into the wall and maintain power. So that's one thing that, again, a temporary obstacle as battery life improves. And this is actually quite heavy. I mean, it can ache your neck after 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, so, and it can be a bit tight on your face. You really have to play around with the straps. There are different attachments you can get that are arguably more comfortable. So there's the physical discomfort as well. Sometimes something like this happens. This student got stuck in a fish tank dressed as a hot dog, and we couldn't get him out. We tried everything. In the end, he had to turn his headset off and turn it on again and join the class again. So, sometimes you can never predict the technical hitches that happen. All right. Some of the problems are already solved. And this is great. If you're moving around the space and gliding around it, this can create motion sickness for some people. And you saw that the students were using teleportation selected to move around. So that really solves that problem. You basically just jump to different points around the space. So that's already solved. Another example, people are talking about distractions. This is a screenshot from the park. You can see tons of distractions here. Well, in that video, you saw me activate focus mode, and this basically paralyzes the students. They can't interact with any objects. So you basically, have them like this. Maybe that would be questionable in a real classroom, maybe against the human rights to just suddenly freeze students. But in virtual reality, it's possible. So thumbs up there. Some problems are being solved in the process of being solved. You saw one of the students had difficulty mastering her bow and arrow. You can actually now send instructions to a student in game to give them information about something that they might be struggling with, like gripping an object or accessing some part of the interface. Okay. And also it's worth mentioning that the students I was teaching, they had been given their headsets by the government, and they weren't actually especially interested in VR at all. They just happened to get a headset. And what we found is that when students actively choose to learn in VR, they're much more fluent with the controls because they're already interested in it. They've played around with it before they have their first lesson. So who it's sold to is a factor in how fluent students can be with the controls. And young learners, it's amazing how quickly they take this technology up and how quickly they're running around the space and doing all sorts of things before you can even realize it. And in fact, I've had some brilliant moments with younger learners. One, for example, in the Wizards classroom, the students found out they could get a virtual Post-it note out of their backpack, their virtual backpack, and stand on it and pull it up towards themselves. And they started to figure out they could fly up into the sky by standing on their notepads. This is a screenshot from that lesson. And soon we got really excited about this glitch, and we started making platforms. I couldn't reach them at this point, so they started making staircases down to me. We went to the park and we made a tree house in the tree. So, I really hope that the developers continue to innovate and find all sorts of new ways that students can collaborate in a space, not just the obvious things of, okay, everyone here's a whiteboard, fill in the gaps, or let's do a role play in the restaurant, okay? this is a strange moment you wouldn't expect to happen in an ordinary classroom. I temporarily lost one of my students and then turned around and they were looking up at me from inside a witch's cauldron. This student decided to eat an infinite amount of hot dogs and proceeded to gorge himself in front of me, which was awkward. Okay, here's another temporary challenge. In this specific app, you can't yet screen share. So all of those fantastic resources that we've collected over time, PDFs and websites that play games that we know and love, and images that we like, we can't yet do that. Other apps you can screen share. Again, I'm emphasizing a temporary challenge, that when this develops, it will be much easier to do that. But for now, what are the creative solutions? How can we get around this? Exploiting the environments, really thinking about how to best use a space. These environments do come with lesson plans, but it's much more fun to ignore those and to think as a teacher, okay, well, what can we do in this desert island? Can we chop down the trees and make a fire and this kind of thing? So exploit the features that are available. And the VR lesson library is expanding. I'm sure teachers will generate new content, share that like any new platform. Another temporary challenge is the need for novelty. Of course, if you show the students all the different spaces in one lesson, then they've seen all the spaces and they're going to get bored more quickly. So the creative solution for this is to gradually introduce the areas. All of the areas that I showed you before then, I managed to eke out over a 6-month period and still get that fantastic reaction of, oh, wow, we're in the gym. Okay, let's learn present continuous together. Okay, so finding new ways to use areas and features. Again, really exciting to do that as a teacher with the prospect of a new learning tool. And new content is being continually added. Every month, this software gets an update, and you think, wow, okay, now they can, do something else that you never thought possible. Another temporary challenge is that students can't make real notes. You can see them with the virtual post-it notes here. And so how can we creatively get around this? Well, adding more repetition into the lesson, having a teacher as the primary note taker that can then send notes to students afterwards. I've had students peeking out of their headset and making notes, which is another workaround. Not ideal, but again, it's all a temporary challenge, temporary disadvantages, if you like, of the software because of its continual development. Another challenge would be teacher training, learning the software, getting practice to master the new technology. The importance of tech fluency I've put here because I think it's important not to get left behind when a new technology arises. When the world went into the pandemic, a lot of teachers found they suddenly had to teach online and they had no experience of that software, maybe even using a computer to that extent before. So it's good to keep your hand in. I do think that face-to-face learning will always be there, but you never know how things are going to develop and what will be important. So I think diversifying as a teacher with your teacher skills is important. So I'd encourage people to have a go with this technology if you get the opportunity. And also, it's so amazing that the teacher can easily get lost in the excitement of this virtual world, and it can turn into more of an unguided experience of play and interaction, and to remember to keep your teaching instinct there, to look for language gaps, to use this as specifically thought about process of, like, if you're a teacher in this space, you need to go in with aims and objectives just as you would with a normal classroom. And so I would encourage, if you teach using this software, to keep that teacher's instinct active and try not to get distracted yourself, which I have done. Okay, another challenge is marketing. I'm going to go through this quite quickly. The headset costs £300 to £400. You have to try it to truly appreciate it. So how do you sell this to someone if you have to try it to truly appreciate it? Well, the creative solution would be to reframe it as an investment. You know, that price is very small compared to flying to another country and being accommodated there, etc. And to allow students to try before they buy. At EC, we've been getting students to try before they buy by finishing their course in the real world and then experiencing VR and basically being upsold this as a continuation of their learning. So they can go home to their country, but they can still access learning from a native speaker from EC. And they've called this Simula. That's the name of their virtual program. Okay, so Q&A is coming shortly. Please do type your questions in the Q&A part. I will whiz through the future of VR and my conclusion. The future of VR, very, very exciting stuff. I'm sure you will agree. This is an incredible tool. It's evolving all the time. Eventually, when the technology becomes even more optimized, the world of virtual spaces will combine with the real reality for augmented reality. So you will actually be able to see virtual content in the real space. So an overlay, if you like, of virtual 3D content, which is quite mind-blowing. And this is what Mark Zuckerberg is trying to push with Meta. Okay, my conclusion. So the biggest advantage, a powerful immersive tool for explorative, playful, organic learning and fluency building. I cannot say how brilliant this is as an engaging tool, taking teaching to the next level, and intrinsically this being something that is active, right? You're moving, you're in a new environment. And so that idea of activating language takes on a whole new meaning when you're transported using this technology. Biggest disadvantage, I would say, is the lack of something compared to face-to-face. You know, you can approximate a person with an avatar, or even with technology like video conferencing software like Zoom and Skype and Microsoft Teams. It's not quite the same as face-to-face, and I'm actually glad that I went back to face-to-face teaching, because I was starting to sort of shrivel up and go a bit insane because I was just looking at a screen too much. So I think, like anything, there's a balance there, which is why I said my ideal setup would be face-to-face with the option for all the students to suddenly go into VR with their own personal headsets. A luxury, but one that may not be so far off as we think. So in summary, embrace VR for its strengths. It works especially fantastically with young learners, or people who've actively chosen VR, as I said. And I think it's a very wonderful and fascinating and brilliant, etc., tool for the teacher as a part of the teacher's toolbox. All right, so I'm going to thank you all very much for listening. It's been a pleasure to be here and share my window into this myself, my experiences. I'm going to take some questions in the time that I have, a short time. So I will do that now. And thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope you really enjoyed that. I hope I was able to communicate how exciting this is. And I really hope you get to try it. Once you try it, you'll really know how special it is. So let's go now to my Q&A tab, and I will be able to see some questions. Okay, let's have a look. So let's go. I've got someone asking about could you use this in science classes and other classes? Yeah, why not? Especially if you've got people developing content, especially for that, you could see a 3D molecule in front of you, or mix chemicals together. Again and again with no cost once that's done. Okay, what have we got? Do I think that it lets students learn a language faster than in a normal classroom? I think if it's used well, yes. Like any tool, if it's used badly, then it's going to be have a negative effect even. But I think because this is intrinsically active, it's the next best thing to actually being in an airport and giving someone your passport, and or explorative learning. I think that the explorative part is even more powerful than just role playing. Is there a place for teachers to meet and share plans? Yeah, why not? As I said, this is one of many apps where you can virtually meet. And of course, the fact that you can connect over the internet, this is wireless, by the way, it means you can connect with people from all over the world, teachers or students alike. Okay. Is it hard to evaluate progress? I think I was teaching an elementary class, and I saw some students make a lot of progress and some students not make as much progress, to be honest. I think that it's hard to tell because this can happen in a normal classroom, that some students they don't make so much progress and other students really make progress. I guess by the fact that there were some students that made a lot of progress, that proves that this was effective. Okay. I've got lots and lots of questions here. I'm so glad you guys are so interested. Okay, I've got a question here. What about bringing our students into the open air, staring at the sun, rolling in the grass and playing games with words, sentences, verbs, vocabulary, just running to say the right word, playing stories with real words, real gesture, watching each other in their eyes? That would be the ideal, I think. If you could suddenly take the students to the park and roll around in the grass together and look at the sky. Unfortunately, that's not always possible. I would choose that over virtual reality. But as I said, it's amazing how when you look at a virtual sky, it is still soul nourishing and an amazing experience. I think what you're trying to touch on there is when you see a beautiful sunset or you see someone's eyes, you experience a feeling of connection, right? If I finish my sentence, you can still have that feeling of connection in VR. It's not perfect yet, but it's doing a fantastic job. So
Okay.
I will wrap up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. That's it.
Okay. Thanks, Tom, for all the questions,
Thank
for
you.
a great presentation.
Thank you very much, everybody.
It's been lovely.
It's a pleasure.